Most games, the good ones at least, try to forge an emotional connection between you and the cast of the game. Typically in the form of tugging on your heartstrings to really make you feel for the plight of protagonists, with the ultimate goal being to make you so connected that you can't help but suffer through those hardships with them, be it through overcoming their plight and arriving at a happy ending, or having them fall short and suffer a great loss. Overall, tears seem to be the ultimate goal of emotional connectivity in media in general. Persona 5 strives to connect you to the cast in much the same way, by having you feel what they do. But instead it accomplishes this in the way of making you feel frustration, anger, and rage. The injustices suffered by the cast of Persona 5 didn't just tug on my heartstrings, they yanked on every fiber of my being that understands that the system is biased, skewed towards the powerful while those without power go unnoticed, or worse, victimized by those who do. Saying that Persona 5 is about rebellion is a bit of an understatement. It's about raging against the machine that keeps us all docile, de facto participants in a system rigged against us. Every primary character you come into contact with strengthens this fact by having been fucked over by the power structure implemented in modern democratic societies. Whether being used for financial, personal, or political gain, everyone with a substantial role in Persona 5 has had their freedom stripped away in some form or another. In that, we're allowed what amounts to a power fantasy of striking back against those who abuse the system, those who use it not for justice or the common good, but for their own selfish desires. As a game, however, Persona 5 is, strictly speaking, a masterpiece. In my time with it, I couldn't find a substantial flaw in its design. There are nitpicks, yes, like some oddly translated lines and one particular voice line that's cut off in what's obviously just an audio error. Nothing game or even immersion breaking, though. If anything, these small issues stand out more due to the high quality of the game as a whole. As with anything, there are aspects of the gameplay that might not mesh with what you're looking for in a game, but Persona 5 makes no illusions as to what it is. It's half visual novel, half dungeon crawler, with a heaping helping of style on top of it all. Everything from the menus to the battle UI, and even stuff as mundane as your subway map or calendar, just simply oozes style, attention to detail, and effort above all else. In Persona 5, you play as the self-named protagonist. His official name is likely on the back burner, like Makoto Yuki of Persona 3 and Yu Narukami of Persona 4 fame. If you're familiar with either of those games, the setup of Persona 5 is very much the same. You're a transfer student. You're relocated from an unknown area to Shujin Academy, located in the heart of Tokyo, due to some extenuating circumstances, like being expelled from your previous school and placed on probation because you were unjustly convicted of a crime you didn't even commit. It took me 118 hours to finish Persona 5, the majority of which takes place in an oft-overused trope called a "how we got here" flashback. The opening takes place at the end of one of the Phantom Thieves' heists towards the end of the game, throwing you right in the middle of the action with essentially no idea of what's going on, other than the fact that you just need to escape. Needless to say, you're captured and subjected to punishment that plainly skips police brutality and jumps right into state-sanctioned torture, all within the first hour of starting your game. Unlike most forms of media that use the "how we got here" flashback, Persona 5 executes it brilliantly, using what's going on in the interrogation room to skim over some plot details for what's just a genius pickup back into the present day when you get there. The fucked upness of what occurs after the opening pretty much just snowballs from there. As I mentioned in my previous impressions video, Persona 5 doesn't shy away from the dark side of humanity. Sexual harassment, exploitation of a workforce, rape, suicide, and beyond are all on the table here. Plain as day for us, the players, to work through and try to avenge. There's no supernatural force at work for why these crimes are committed, nor any redemption for those at fault. It's simply the evil that stems from unchecked power. The supernatural force in play is you, taking these bastards down as the Phantom Thieves. I gotta say, very little has given me as much satisfaction in a game as Persona 5 has given me in bringing these targets to justice. Now, that's not to say that Persona 5 is all doom and gloom. The high points are definitely there, generally in the form of your confidants. In fact, most of the positive emotional impact is found in interacting with them. Yes, some confidants are more worth it than others, both in terms of the extra abilities they provide and in terms of actual character development, but none are actually a waste of your time. Everyone has their moment to shine. Though I will say that without a guide, there is just no way in absolute hell that you'll max out all of your confidants on your first playthrough. If you do, I mean, shit, dude, you get a cookie. But then again, Persona 5 and the majority of the confidants are more than good enough to warrant a New Game Plus go-around in order to get the whole experience. Alright, and that's enough about the plot, because there's not much more I can say without spoilers. Just know that it's fantastic. The twists are genuinely great. I mean, like, think Sixth Sense level great as opposed to like Signs level and The Happening level bullshit. I could easily spend an hour going into the story. It's all of its meanings and overall implications, but that's something I'm going to leave for another day. As for the actual meat of the game, you know, the gameplay, Persona 5 takes everything previous games in the series and turn-based RPGs in general have done before, and it streamlines it. Gone are the endless menus in combat, instead attaching each action to a single button press. As with other Persona and Shin Megami Tensei titles, exploiting enemy weaknesses is at the core of combat. It's so central that Atlus even gave us the ability to just tap R1 and have the game scan the weaknesses of all the enemies on the battlefield and select an ability for you to use to exploit that weakness. Because exploiting these weaknesses knocks down the enemy, nets you added damage, and even an extra turn. Should you knock down all opponents, you'll perform automatically a hold up on them, allowing you several options. You can get an item, you can get money, or in a return of the conversation system from previous Shin Megami Tensei games, you'll be able to negotiate with the enemy and take it on as a persona, provided that you answer their questions to their liking. Or you can straight up just perform an all-out attack, cause massive damage to all of them, and usually end the battle right there, along with a fun splash screen of the Phantom Thief who won the battle. Your actions before battle will play as much of a role in your success as the actual combat, though. Hiding behind and zipping between cover allows you to easily ambush the enemy, and doing so makes them act last in the opening turn. However, the inverse is also true. Getting ambushed yourself is just disastrous, and on more than one occasion led to my team getting wiped out by enemies that I really had no business losing to. In what's clearly a response to fan and professional critique, the dungeons have also been changed significantly. No longer are they floor after floor of randomly generated hallways. No, these dungeons actually have a layout, which means the developers are able to spice them up a bit with traps, some really stellar puzzles, and some honest-to-God level design. It's refreshing, and it made Persona 5 far more interesting to play than its predecessors. Though someone at Atlus clearly has a special place in their heart for randomly generated dungeons, because Mementos is a dungeon that you'll traverse throughout the entire game in order to complete side quests and do some other things there. Unfortunately, it's 50 plus floors of randomly generated slog. On the upside, it never really overstays its welcome, because each area is locked behind a story progression check that you'll get to in less than an hour. Now, as for what you'll spend most of your time doing, mostly living your life as an ordinary high schooler. You'll go to school, take exams, read books, get a job, see movies about mobsters who just want to find love, and so on and so forth. Doing these things raises your social stats, which are crucial to forming relationships with your confidants, which in turn are essential for fusing more powerful personas. You'll likely spend a significant amount of time in the Velvet Room, the supernatural area under the purview of Igor and his attendants Caroline and Justine. The Velvet Room is where you go to fuse new personas from the ones you've already collected. It's an incredibly deep and rewarding system that really just never gets old. It's the equivalent of, say, taking two Pokemon and sacrificing them by chopping their heads off to create something completely new. Skill inheritance makes a comeback from Persona 4 Golden, which takes the edge off of giving up some of your more versatile personas. In the Velvet Room, you can also sacrifice personas to strengthen others, summon previously held personas, and transmogrify them into items like weapons, armor, and skill cards. There's a truly staggering amount of things to do, but all of them are necessary in order to either survive or, up those confidant ranks. Since the higher your confidant rank, the more the persona that you fuse that's attached to that particular confidant will gain experience when you fuse it. Time management is a huge thing here, but really don't sweat it too much. I mean, you're never really wasting your time unless you decide to go to bed early for some insane reason. I mentioned earlier about the crazy amount of effort that went into this game, and I was not kidding. There are 225 personas, including DLC, all of which are animated fully 3D avatars, and I can only think of one that's a recolor. But they all have their own stats, their own strengths, weaknesses, and holy shit, this had to be a ton of work. Beyond that is just the massive amount of areas for you to go to. There's 5 main areas in Tokyo. Each of them, though, are bigger than all of Persona 4's non-supernatural world, or at least it seems like it. Plus, there's another 10 or so sub-areas that you're able to go to, provided that you invite along one of your confidants. A big part of the style that pervades every single aspect of this game is Shoji Meguro's soundtrack. Music has always been a strong point of Persona titles, and 5 really kicks it up a notch. All of the tracks are standouts. Everything from the music playing during your downtime to dungeon themes, and especially the battle music, is all amazing. I never had the inclination to play my own music at all during Persona 5, which is just incredible in and of itself. In an even ballsier choice, none of the music is downplayed. It's often front and center of the scene. Not downplaying the music like that, like it's done in many games, movies, and TV shows, is a stylistic choice that I just can't praise enough. Add in the fact that it's easily one of the better video game soundtracks out there, and you've really got a winner. Persona 5 is a massive game with massive playtime to go with it, but it's never boring. You're never left wondering what to do with your time, and that alone is a hell of an achievement for a game this size. If you're a fan of Persona games or turn-based RPGs in general, or even just a fan of a great narrative, I really think you'll love Persona 5. If you're not so much into visual novels or RPGs, you might want to wait for the price to drop if it still looks interesting to you, but in either case, Persona 5 is easily one of the best games released in recent years. All we can do now is hope that we won't have to wait another 9 years for Persona 6. But even if we do, the inevitable spin-offs of 5, like, I'm personally looking forward to Dance Your Heart Away, come on, right? Those will likely keep us busy until then. I really didn't know that I could enjoy the Persona series more than I already did, but 5 sets a new, very high bar for what we can and should expect from JRPGs. Alright, and so that's my review of Persona 5. If you liked my review, go ahead and do your thing. You could like the video, or subscribe to my channel, or follow me on Twitter, at Greene Games, or you can do all three. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, because I'm not going to tell you what to do. I don't know how you live your life. Like, just do whatever feels good, man. And with that, thanks for watching, guys.